Hello, Canada. Welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Citizen Journal. I'm your host, alias Tagai. Well, Trump just deflated any hopes that the Liberal NDP and Green Party had of using the tariffs for political gain. Canada is exempt. Let's go over kind of what happened today. Hopefully you caught my live stream of Trump's Liberation Day. It was quite interesting, none to say the least. But Trump has that way. He's quite the entertainer. As he says, he likes to weave his pressers and conversations, and that he did. We're gonna deal with mostly Poilievre today at his rally, which again, packed house people, lineups around the building, parking lots full. Just another show that these polls cannot be true. So we'll deal on the tariffs, the Liberals and their attack on conservative signs all across Canada. We're just going to pick out a few. There is hundreds of these coming in. If you see this going down, make sure you record this. If you have it on your doorbell, ring, whatever that you've got for a system, make sure you record it and send it in to media. We need to get it out there. People need to see the destructive ideology, just the ruthlessness of a socialist people. If you can't be civil, that pretty much exposes that which side is good and which side is evil. So let's just start off with this whole tariff thing. So here's a list of countries hit with the reciprocal tariffs. If you look carefully, we are not on this list. A lot of other countries are. But in actuality, this is the truth. So, all articles that may become subject to future Section 232 tariffs, 5 bullion and 6 energy and other certain minerals that are not available in the United States. For Canada and Mexico, the existing fentanyl migration IEEPA orders remain in effect and are unaffected by this order. This means USMCA compliant goods will continue to see a 0% tariff. Non-USMCA compliant goods will see a 25% tariff. And non-USMCA compliant energy and potash will see a 10% tariff. In the event the existing fentanyl migration IEEPA orders are terminated, the USMCA compliant goods would continue to receive preferential treatment, while non-USMCA compliant goods would be subject to a 12% reciprocal tariff. This has literally just taken the wind out of Carney's sails, which is so nice to see. And you can thank Daniel Smith for this. Yes, you can applaud now. Yes, you can applaud. Yes, very good. Definitely she had a large factor in this going through. She's pushed both Democrats and Republicans doing the job of what our lackey of a prime minister has done, which is no surprise because if he wins, we're likely to become the 51st state. Go ahead, Liberals, you can cry and you can complain and put bad comments and say mean things and, I don't know, do what you do best, fear, hate, and division. It doesn't hurt real Canadians' feelings. We're beyond that. We've seen our country go downhill in 10 years and we're done. We've had enough of that. Now, let's just kind of go on to a few of these crazies and what they're doing. It's quite insane, but not surprising.
Stop vandalizing windows. Stop vandalizing windows. This is private property.
Now, this happened during the BC election. This is John Russell.
Not appropriate. Private property. You can't vandalize windows. You're entitled to your opinion.
That's the minimum.
You're entitled to your opinion. You can't vandalize windows.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
You're entitled to your opinion. You can't vandalize windows.
Well, I'll face the consequences, unlike people that deny climate change.
Got it.
Right. And this is a lot of the federal going on right now. This is an actual employee, I do believe, of the city. It's a bylaw officer. Watch one more time, watch carefully. Do. Nobody's out looking. I'm an idiot. I like fascism. I'm going to hide this sign. And I'll be back to probably ticket this person because they're a conservative. This is the reality of the world we're in today. And then they do stuff like this. Look carefully at these signs. They put stickers over top of them. You see this? Intolerant. And this one over here, Zionist. And we're seeing this all over Canada. They're doing, not only are we literally finding piles of signs hidden behind dumpsters, in between dumpsters, buried and thrown into crevices, behind fences, little valleys. So not only are these environmentalist zealots like littering, well, they're burning Teslas. So it pretty much tells you their whole the climate thing doesn't mean crap. But we're also seeing where they're putting signs up all around conservative signs to try and blanket them. And again, now this is actually a gray area. This is a legal tactic because they're not vandalizing the sign. Make sure you film this, people. We need to get the word out. We got to expose them for what they are. There were a couple where I had seen that some liberal signs had been vandalized. And when I actually checked back on it, it was fake news. I'm looking into this. I got to kind of check out a few names on it, on where they were linked. But it looks like they had actually vandalized their own signs and then blamed conservatives for it with a sign that they had stolen from just up the street from another person. So I'm like I said, I'm just waiting to kind of verify that. I'm hoping that I get in contact with them, or whoever it was that posted that video. I left some comments on there, private messages on there for him with some of the information that I've got, and hopefully together we can chase it down. This is where we really need the public. We need you to like, share, and subscribe, and be part of this whole this movement to try and end fake news, to try and end socialism and fascism, and expose the corruption in our government. If we're going to save Canada, it's an all-in approach. It's not a bystander sport. In order to be part of it, you have to get both feet in. You've got to dive in. You gotta actually do the work. So let's move on to Poilievre. This was a great speech. I'm not going to play the entire thing. This video will already be a little bit long, but I figured these are crucial points that I think all Canadians should hear.
As I said, Canadians have the right to know what red lines I will draw in order to protect our country in these inevitable negotiations that any future Prime Minister will have and have quickly. So let me be clear. First, I will protect our control over our border, our security, our resources, our farmers, including our supply-managed farmers, our fresh water, our automotive workers. Also, we will protect our sovereignty, our laws, our currency, our dollar, our land, our waters, our sky, our culture, our official languages, and our resources and Indigenous rights will not be under the control of any other country. This is non-negotiable. We will protect Canada's sovereignty in any negotiations. Second, for years, the Americans have demanded we do more in defense. But the truth is, Canadians have been demanding exactly the same thing. And so I will commit that any extra revenue generated from expanded trade with the United States will go right into our armed forces. We will hit our 2%. We will take back control of our Arctic waters from the Chinese and the Russians. We will rebuild our military and will become a truly sovereign nation with a strong armed forces that can protect us.
Now, I brought this up quite a while ago. I think this is probably the greatest trade technique that we can use. This was something that Doug Ford should have been doing right off the hop, but his short IQ, his shelf life of a brain, because all he cares about is power, completely failed to recognize. This is the ultimate negotiating tool, because this is the number one thing that Trump despises about Canada, is that we're lacking. I mean, for one of the founders of NATO to be the bottom of the deepest recesses of the bottom of the pool of people who actually pay their bills. As a Canadian, this is embarrassing. You pay your bills. If you shake a hand or sign a document, or you just say it from your mouth and you make a promise, you fulfill it. That's what makes us Canadian. This, to me, is the best tool to deal with Donald Trump.
We will not do this to please President Trump. We will do it because it is right for Canada, especially in light of America's growing ambivalence towards NATO. It is important for Canada to step up and show its strength. Canada will carry its own weight. We will secure the North. We will put more boots on the ground, submarines and ships in the sea, and planes in the air. Americans will be able to sleep sound at night, knowing that we fully defend our North. It will also allow us to improve NORAD, to deter, detect, and destroy incoming threats to our shared security. Third, while we will agree to work with the Americans to secure our border on fentanyl and illegal migration, I'll also demand that they do their part to stop sending illegal guns across our border that kill our people. Now, how do we ensure that President Trump keeps his side of the bargain? How can we trust that he'll honor any new agreement when, let's be honest, he violated the last one, the one he negotiated? Well, that's the situation we're now in. We must make sure that the next deal has commitments that we make on defense, border cooperation, and market access that we can withdraw if and when he decides to break the deal and tariff us again. We will hold up our end of the bargain only as long as he holds up his. That is how we create the leverage to protect against a president suddenly changing his mind and breaking his word. Well, we can't control what the president does. You know, my father isn't a particularly religious man, but he did teach me the Serenity Prayer. God help me to accept the things I cannot change, change the things I can, and have the wisdom to know the difference. And we know that we can't control the decisions the president makes, but we know we can control the decisions we make about our own destiny here at home. The president will have a fork in the road. Either he'll continue to hold the threat of tariffs over our heads for the next 3.5 years, or we'll secure a deal that provides permanent relief to our economies, now paralyzed by uncertainty. We don't know which way he'll go, so Canada must be prepared either way. A renewed trade deal with the Americans would be ideal, but it's not the entire solution to our economy. A credible plan to deal with Trump must prepare Canada for growth with or without reliable trade with the Americans. Unfortunately, after the lost Liberal decade, we are in an unprecedented position of weakness. Our economy is stagnant. Our workers are poor. Our industry has been left exposed to President Trump's threats. And let's be clear about this. We have had the single worst growth of any country in the G7 over the last Liberal decade. The worst part of that growth happened while Mark Carney was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. In fact, our per capita GDP is smaller than it was 5 years ago, while the American per capita GDP has grown by 18%. We are projected to have the slowest growth of all of the nearly 40 OECD nations, and that is after 10 years of the Liberals in power. In the first 14 years of this century, Canada had a net investment of American dollars in Canada of about $30 to $100 billion, depending on the year. Right now, after the last Liberal decade, there are $500 billion more Canadian dollars invested in America than the reverse. $500 billion has poured out of our economy into the U.S. We are more dependent and helpless than ever before, precisely because of the policies that Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau have imposed in this lost decade.
And he's absolutely correct. And for those that watch mainstream and they pull out these the documents that the Liberal government puts out that they lie on, the ones that they try to push down our throats, take a look around. Are you choosing between heat and eat? Can you afford a new home? Can you afford the payments on the home that you're already purchasing and had to renegotiate because your mortgage came due? Have you ever seen as many tent cities as you have right now? Homelessness as you have right now? Drug overdoses, abuses, dens. We are literally in the worst. Canada is almost destitute. Take a close look around at all of the neighborhoods. I tour all over this country. It's embarrassing to see what it has become. We need to get serious. We need serious policy, and we need to put laws in place to stop a government from ever being able to do this to us again.
At this pivotal moment, I think Canadians have to ask a question. Why is Donald Trump so supportive of Mark Carney? Why has Trump anointed Carney the winner of the next election? Do you think it's because Trump has Canada's best interests at heart when he says that he'd rather negotiate with a Liberal government? Or is he thinking about what he can get at Canada's expense? Here's what I think. Donald Trump knows that a fourth Liberal term under Mark Carney will make Canada even weaker and poorer than it was over the last decade, more dependent on American markets and vulnerable to his threats. He knows Mr. Carney is opposed to turning Canada into an energy superpower. He knows that Liberal agenda blocking energy production and pipeline construction will keep Donald Trump's thumb over our economy. In fact, Mr. Carney actually said, and I'm quoting here, more than 80% of current fossil fuel reserves would need to stay in the ground. Now, obviously, he means Canadian oil reserves. There would be more oil produced south of the border, profiting the Americans and making us weaker and more reliant.
Now, this is absolutely true. So I'm just going to play you a little clip of Carney from his mouth. Listen carefully.
How do you reconcile keeping Bill C-69 with your plans to build infrastructure in Canada? Do you plan to repeal Bill C-69?
We do not plan to repeal Bill C-69, to answer your question directly. What we have said and made very clear 10 days ago, formally with the First Minister's meeting, is that we will move for projects of national interest to remove duplication in terms of environmental assessments and other approvals, and we will follow, as the federal government, the principle of one project, one approval to move forward from that. And so what's essential is to work at this time of crisis to come together as a nation, all levels of government, to focus on those projects that are going to make material differences to our country, to Canadian workers, and to our future, and work closely together. And the federal government is looking to lead with that by saying we will accept provincial environmental assessments to move forward with that for example, clean energy projects or...
Clean energy projects. That's right. The ones that we're losing money on. The one that federally $60 billion invested, Ontario $16 billion invested, that have been closing shop, going bankrupt. Yes, The idea that by 2035 we're not going to be able to buy any combustion engines. Goodbye, Ontario auto sector. Goodbye. If you vote Liberal, say goodbye to your future jobs. They're not going to be there. And if you think all of the new plants are going to hire the same amount of people that there are today producing combustion engines, you have got to really do some research and see how these new plants work. Like I said before, and I put a correction in the description. I ended up having some issues with the editing. 2,200 parts in the average combustion engine, 22 parts in an electric motor. These factories have 300 to 600 robots producing what 5,000 people produce today. You will lose your auto sector if this party is elected, and we don't remove this communist idea to force you away from buying what you need to survive into something that will not function in Canada. I will tell you right now, I live remote. There is no possible way I can get to and back from my place safely with electricity. Will not happen, cannot happen. There's no power, there's no phone, there's no water, there's no nothing. All of these remote areas will be hooched. You will be in serious dire straits. All of the rural areas who are thinking about voting this party in, think carefully about your freedoms. Will you be able to buy the snowmobile for your tracking or your hunting line? Your trapping lines will be gone. Do you really think an electric skidoo is going to get you through your trap line in Canada? When you go back to a cabin that has solar panels enough to just barely function your house, where you have to start generators on cloudy days in order to get you by, will you be able to buy those generators? Or will they be what they call the new generator, which is just a battery? They're not a real generator. They don't make electricity. All they do is store it. If you vote this government in, you are literally flushing the Canadian way of life down the tubes.
For conventional energy projects, there are many others that could be there. Last point, which in many respects is the first point, we will always ensure that these projects move forward in partnership with First Nations.
I don't know about you, but all the First Nations that I know in contact with, they're not voting Liberal. They're tired of seeing the devastation that the Liberals have done to their lands. They are protectionists. This government is the worst possible thing that could ever happen to the reserves, to the Indigenous people of Canada. There are a few out there, yes, that are jumping on the bandwagon. I have no idea why. That it's whatever. You're Canadian, make up your own decision. I just hope you stay informed. If we can get the Ring of Fire opened up, it will remove poverty from all of the tribal lands that it either goes through or is adjacent to. We finally have a chance to give Indigenous people an equal seat at the table. This is a game changer for Canada. This will finally unite Canada. We need this. This guy has to go. Now, do you really think these people are interested in Canada? Brookfield nears $9 billion plus deal for Colonial Pipeline. This deal was made while Carney was at the chairman seat of Brookfield. This is what he's been doing outside of Canada. While they've been shutting down Canadian resources, he was sitting beside Trudeau when he made this deal. Brookfield Asset Manager is putting the final touches on a deal to acquire Colonial Pipeline, the largest U.S. fuel transportation system, for more than $9 billion, including debt. People familiar with the matter said on Monday, the New York-based asset manager has emerged as the winner of the auction process which the 5 owners of the pipeline have been running over several months, the sources said, requesting anonymity, and the deliberations are confidential. This all was pushed through with Carney. The deal between Brookfield and the owners could be formally announced in the coming weeks, barring any last-minute snags. Now, if we scroll down, Colonial's pipeline system stretches over 5,500 miles from Houston, Texas to New York's harbor. It moves more than 100 million gallons of fuel daily, including gasoline, jet fuel, diesel, and heating oil, according to its website. What about Canada? They're profiting off holding Canada down while they drowned us, while they literally crushed Canadians' economy and dollar. They are profiting from us. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Get the word out.
Trump knows that Mr. Carney will keep Justin Trudeau's industrial carbon tax on Canadian industry, as well as Trudeau's cap on Canadian energy, driving business south. And just yesterday, Mark Carney gave a wonderful gift to Donald Trump. He announced he will keep the Liberal No New Pipelines Law C-69 in place. Bill C-69 guarantees there will never again be a pipeline, LNG plant, large-scale mine, or nuclear project built in this country. It will send hundreds of billions of dollars fleeing south of the border to Trump's America and force us to continue to sell our oil and gas at massive price discounts. When you consider that Mark Carney's Keep It in the Ground agenda will make us even more dependent on the United States, it becomes pretty clear why Trump wants the Liberals to win a 4th term. The last thing that President Trump wants is a strong Canadian Prime Minister who will turn this country around, turning our country into an economic and resource powerhouse with competitive taxes that is open for business. That might not be good for President Trump, but it is exactly how you put Canada first. The choice in the next election is clear. After the lost Liberal decade, can we afford a 4th term of rising costs and crime and falling economy under America's thumb? Or is it time for a change with a new Conservative government that will put Canada first, a government that will unleash our resources, cut taxes for our workers, bring home our jobs, and stand up to the Americans from a position of strength? That's the decision. That's the decision. And that part we do control. Only we control our natural resources, our tax policy, our competitiveness, and whether Canadians keep more of what they earn and save. The story of Canada is a story of doing big things, of ambitious projects that bind the nation together, uniting us as a people and securing our sovereignty. That's what Brian Mulroney did when he negotiated free trade. That's what John A. Macdonald did with the railway. Canada was not handed to our ancestors. They had to work and sacrifice for it. And whether we were born here or chose to come, we are their heirs. And we have a duty to defend what our ancestors gave us, to build an even better Canada to leave to our children. That is our purpose. That is what we will do. We need our country to think big again. It's time to challenge ourselves, because decline is a choice. But it's not my choice. I choose to build. I choose to grow. I choose to meet the moment with ambition worthy of the men and women who built this great country. My plan for the Canadian economy could not be more different than what you've seen over the lost Liberal decade of Carney and Trudeau. I've spent the first week of this campaign setting out ambitious and detailed plans to build our economy so we can stand on our own 2 feet and stand up against foreign threats. It's everything we should have been doing for the last 10 years, everything I said we should do over the last 10 years, and everything that Mark Carney has explicitly opposed over the last 10 years. Dès la première semaine
Now, here's something you may find quite comical that has popped up. This is the supposedly 5-story building that Carney uses to shelter his money. Carney sheltered profits from a company managing $900 billion in assets through their 5th-floor office of what looks to be a 3-story bike shop in Bermuda. Seems legit. Is this the man that should be leading our country? I don't think so. This is ridiculous. Let's continue.
In the first week of this campaign, I've laid out clear and detailed plans to relaunch our economy and take back control of our economic destiny. I've announced that we will cut income taxes by 15% to reward hard work and give our people a chance to get ahead. I've announced the Canada First Reinvestment Tax Cut. 0 capital gains tax when you reinvest the proceeds building Canada right here at home.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Think about this. Think about this right now. There is currently no incentive, if you sell an investment today, to reinvest it in Canada. You pay the same capital gains tax if you reinvest here versus sending it abroad. And in fact, because the taxes on your later investment are lower abroad, the business taxes and other taxes, there is a perverse incentive to ship money away. And that's why so much investment has left. Then there's the lock-in effect. Countless people hold on to tired old assets that they'd love to dispose of, but would face a walloping tax bill. So instead of disposing of it to someone who can do something better with it and using the proceeds to build new homes, launch a new factory, buy a new CNC machine or a conveyor belt, or launch a new technology, the money just sits dead. That's the lock-in effect. By allowing Canadians to sell existing investments and immediately reinvest it here in Canada, it will be like economic rocket fuel, launching our economy above and beyond the Americans, turning this into a dynamic, free market economy where we can show our strength and reward success. We want to reward hard work. Our seniors are punished if they choose on their own behest to go out and work. They get clawed back and taxed away. We'll let them earn up to $34,000 tax-free so that there's actually a benefit to sharing their wisdom and their contributions with our economy. And we will create Canada shovel-ready zones, areas that are pre-permitted for construction before we even receive an application. The way it will work is that online we will publish the standards and specs required to build power stations, pipelines, LNG plants, and more, but with permits that are already legally binding and granted, so that companies don't have to sit around for 7 years tying up billions of dollars of capital, something that has dissuaded them from being here. After the Liberals killed $178 billion of projects, many companies won't even try. But if they have pre-permitting and absolute certainty, they can get to work and get their shovels in the ground. One of those projects will be the Ring of Fire. I pledge to grant permits for the Ring of Fire within 6 months of becoming Prime Minister.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll partner with President Mulroney and the team in the Ontario government to build that road so we can actually move the goods back and forth. I talked to a First Nations chief from up north who wants the Ring of Fire, and I said, "Are the shovels in the ground?" He said, "The snow shovels." He said, "They've been waiting 5 years and spent $50 million on federal permitting for a road. Forget the mine itself. Let's get these delays out of the way. As the great Bob Stanfield said, let's stop stopping and start starting." One example is the 14 biggest energy and resource companies wrote a letter to all of the federal leaders. And they said there's 5 things we need if you want us to make Canada economically independent from the Americans. 5 specific asks. 1, you need to repeal the No New Pipelines Law, C-69, and the tanker ban so we can ship our oil overseas. My answer? Yes. 2, grant decisions on major projects within 6 months rather than 17 years? My answer? Yes. 3, scrap the energy cap that will limit the amount of oil and gas we can produce while allowing foreign polluting countries to have an unlimited dominance in markets. So scrap the energy cap? My answer? Yes. 4, they said we must axe the industrial carbon tax, which makes it impossible for us to compete with Americans who have no such tax. Axe the industrial carbon tax? My answer is yes. And give Indigenous loan guarantees to help First Nations take equity positions and profit from the projects that happen on their land? My answer, again, is yes.
So don't listen to the media. This is going to be huge for the Indigenous people and their tribal lands. We can finally start to see investments from them into an industry that will pay back huge dividends, giving them a seat at the table, giving them the funding they need in order to put forward things that will help them bring their language and culture back, employ their people. This is what has to be done. Enough with this whole bullcrap colonialism and the rest of it. In order for them to succeed, they need a seat at the table. A fair seat. This is going to happen. Without the Liberals at the table, we must remove them, the Greens and the NDP, who have been stifling the Indigenous people from being able to have that say. I mean, think about it. The Federals, who literally did all the injustices, gave themselves a day off for Truth and Reconciliation, where they're the only ones who get paid on that day off. That is completely backwards thinking. I laughed the second it happened. And then what happened? Trudeau takes off to Tofino to celebrate his white privilege, while the natives were here going, well, that's funny. None of us that work get a day off with pay. Liberals have to go.
Yesterday in St. John's, I committed to all 5 of these things. Mr. Carney has said he will do none of them. Expanding our energy production and exports is the single most powerful thing we can do to break our dependence on the Americans. And that is the very single thing that Mark Carney has explicitly said he will not do. So what is his plan? A resume is not a plan. Nor is continuing with the same policies that got us into this mess in the first place. In fact, he wants to put the Liberal policies on steroids. His housing plan, I don't know if you saw this earlier this week, he wants to create a government-run construction company that is going to make prefab tiny homes with no parking spots. This is his idea for housing. This is even more radical than the stuff that came from Stephen Guilbeault and Justin Trudeau over the last 10 years. This is not a serious plan to protect our economy and break our dependence. We need a serious nation-building plan to Trump-proof our economy. Mine will put Canada first. It is a plan for Canada that is richer and stronger than the one the Liberals left us. A plan to protect Canada from whatever choices, wrong choices, the President might make. So my message to President Trump is this: if you keep attacking our economy, over the next 4 years, under my Conservative government, Canada will become completely rebuilt as an economy that no longer is reliant on the Americans for everything. You will have lost your greatest trading partner and best friend. We will be a confident and strong country capable of standing on its own 2 feet, standing up to anybody that gets in our way, and moving forward to give our people back the Canadian promise. The only thing we can control is the things that we do at home. And the best way is to unleash our industry, cut taxes on our workers, bring zero capital gains taxes for our Canadian reinvestment, build more pipelines, LNG plants, power plants, data centers. That is the only way to actually stand up to the U.S. president. All these things I've talked about for the last 10 years, all these things Mark Carney has consistently opposed. All of these things are required to move forward. But we have to remember why we're doing these things. The point of these trade and resource and tax policies is not to win a debate in a faculty club or an economic seminar. What use is it to have a booming economy if our cities are unaffordable, unsafe, and increasingly unlivable? Some Liberal supporters and lobbyists have asked why I keep talking about the cost of living, housing, crime, and about the Liberal drug crisis instead of focusing exclusively on Donald Trump. My answer is this. The threat of the President's actions against Canada are serious, and I've proposed serious answers to those threats. But the struggles that Canadians are facing at home, the fear and the hurt that I hear everywhere across this land, those are real too. And I will not stop talking about these problems which predate Donald Trump and which will outlast Donald Trump if we do not act to fix them. Everyone is struggling with the cost of living. Young Canadians are stressed about never affording a home, bills they can't afford. Their parents worry that they might overdose, their children might overdose on fentanyl. And even those who are not afflicted with that scourge wonder how they'll ever move out of their parents' basement and have kids. Millions of Canadians have been living for years in what I call lives of quiet desperation. Their stories rarely make the evening news. So yes, I will be out there every day outlining my plan to protect Canada against American tariffs. But I will also unapologetically be out there talking about my plan to build more homes, get people off drugs and into recovery, fix the budget, keep inflation down, cap immigration so we never add more people than health care, jobs, and housing, get criminals off the street. We can do all of these things. We must do all of these things at the same time as we stand up to President Trump from a position of strength. Because that's what a prime minister does. Now, what the Liberals would like you to do is forget about all the damage they did over the last 10 years. They want you to forget the lost Liberal decade. They want you to forget that it's exactly the same Liberal ministers, same Liberal MPs, same Liberal strategists making the same broken Liberal promises. We cannot afford a fourth Liberal term. We need a change to put Canada first. We will get that change. We will be a strong, self-reliant nation that takes care of its own and bows down before no country. Not a nation of tax collectors and toll masters, of bureaucrats and busybodies, of gatekeepers and grandees, of rulers and rule makers. No, we are a nation of explorers and entrepreneurs, artists and adventurers, workers and warriors, pioneers and patriots. Canada is much more than just not being American. It is about our shared values, our culture, our shared history, and the enduring promise that Canada made to each and every one of us. The promise that brought my wife here as a refugee from Venezuela. Why would she leave a beautiful tropical country to come to a place where it snows in the middle of April? The answer is because this country offered the incredible promise that 6 people crammed into a basement East End Montreal apartment could work their way to a successful life, that she, with that humble beginning, could stand next to the son of a teenage mother adopted by 2 school teachers to be on this stage. We owe it to this country.
Look at his emotions. Look at his emotions. He's having a hard time holding it back. Look at his emotions and listen to this. This is one of the best speeches I've seen Poilievre give. This last 5 minutes literally blew me away. This is how a real leader should talk. Holding it together, holding it together.
My family owes this country everything we have, and therefore we have a duty to protect the same promise for those who come after us. Canada needs a change to restore its promise. Canada is ready for that change. I am ready to lead that change. I am ready to be Prime Minister for our people, for our land, for Canada first, for a change. Let's bring it home. Thank you very much.
Wow. Absolute wow. Absolutely amazing speech. I'm not surprised. I've been following him for literally since he first got elected. The guy is incredibly bright. I'm a math guy, so I latched onto him right away because he is a math guy. He holds calculations in his head. He will get up in front of committee or in front of Parliament without any paper, without any pre-printed documents, and he will just start listing fact. He will list proper stats, not deviated or twisted stats. He's been doing this since he first got in office, and this is why he has become so successful at being a politician. And there's very, very few of them that have had the career that he has had that has made such a huge change and actually helped create policy within senior government officials of his own party. I'm a big fan of Poilievre, obviously. Here I am. But I also see what he sees, and you can see it with the emotion in him. I never thought I would see our Canada fall like it has in the last 10 years. I knew it was going to be bad the second Trudeau started running as leader. I knew it. I saw the propaganda. If you watch previous episodes, I explain a lot of it. I just wasn't aware of how bad it would actually become. I thought the first Trudeau was bad. This last one was horrible. And if we allow his puppet masters like Mark Carney to take power, there is no fixing Canada. This, to me, is the most important election in Canadian history, and for sure in my lifetime. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope that you were enlightened and I got to show you what mainstream doesn't like showing you with their little clips and sound bites. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, you've been watching the Canadian Citizen Journal. I've been your host, Elias Tagay. Stay informed.